Hey everyone, how's it going? Luke from A Taste of AZ. On today's episode, Eric talks with the people over at Adventurous Stills. They're making all sorts of wonderful spirits right here in the valley. Make sure to follow them on social media, as well as A Taste of AZ. Subscribe to our channel below, like the video. Let's jump into it.
We are here today with Adventurous Stills out of Tempe, Arizona. You guys are awesome. Love you guys. Let's just start off with that.
Sweet. Nice to see you. Good to be here.
Yes. So sorry for a little miscommunication. We're used to doing these all on Zoom. So I know you guys were hoping to see me in person. But
it's a new world, man.
Next time for sure.
There you go.
But guys, welcome. You want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'll start. So I'm Kelly Laddig. I'm one of the founding partners. I'll just leave it at that. Chase?
Yeah, I'm Chase Estrin. I am not one of the founding partners, but I am one of the current partners. So Kelly, if you want to give a little bit of background on us.
Yeah, so we started as a partnership of three guys, three friends that this is kind of a long and crazy story, but it started off as just a whim that we kind of took off into a kind of a crazy idea, turned into a business. Three of us back in 2015, we incorporated the business. And then spent a year and a half trying to get licensing and all that kind of thing put together before we were able to open our doors in January 17. Started off on the premise that Adventurous Stills was created by some pretty adventurous guys, and so that's kind of the start of the name. But really, the objective was to do the same sort of thing in craft distilling as it had been done in the craft brewing world for 30 years, is do things interesting and different and adventurous. And it's been a great adventure for us. We've done some pretty wild and crazy spirits, as anybody in the Explorers Club can attest to. We've made some really fun and interesting stuff, and that's what we're all about. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Speaking of the devil, quinoa whiskey was released yesterday to the Explorers Club members, and it's probably our weirdest thing to date. Quinoa is not something that most people would think of when it comes to making whiskey.
Sure.
And in fact, it's pretty difficult to manage. Quinoa is such a super small grain that we have to have specialized equipment in order to mill it so we can run it through the still and extract the starch. And, again, that's another kind of thing that we're about is, hey, we want to do some weird stuff, and that forces us to produce some weird equipment to make it happen.
Right.
It's just been a fun adventure.
Some of it handmade too, right? I mean, I know
that all of it.
Yeah.
You can buy a mill that'll mill stuff up. It'll mills malt wonderfully, but you try to run quinoa through it. Well, quinoa is like big sand. It just pours right through.
Sure.
So we had to modify the mill, and actually ended up doing that a couple times before we got where we like it. And now we can mill anything we want, and it's great.
Yeah, the doors just opened even more, right, for you guys.
Exactly. Yeah, the sky's the limit. Somebody's talking about amaranth, which is even finer. And one of these days.
Why not? Right? Why not?
Exactly.
Well, what made you guys want to do a quinoa whiskey? Like that sounds like 7 whiskeys into the night. Like, dude, we're gonna make a quinoa whiskey, right?
It's not unheard of. Corsair makes one. Okay. And it's Corsairs, they make good product, nothing wrong with it, but it's not particularly distinctive. And the reason is, I think their mash bill, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's 20% quinoa, which is enough to give it some character.
Yeah.
But hey, man, if you're going to be adventurous, we're going all in. We want 51%. It's true quinoa. The rest of it's malt, and with that much quinoa in there, boy, is the flavor. It's nothing like we would expect. It's spicy, hatch chili flavor. It's amazing to me. That's the fun. We go off and do these weird things, like kind of on a whim, like, quinoa, sure, what the hell, let's give it a shot. We didn't see this coming. Where would you expect hatch chili? So that's what makes it great. It's just trying different stuff, and we'll see what we get. Yeah,
I like that approach, man. I like that because it's hard, right? It's hard because you want to be like, all right, what is the best? This is what I want to make, but this is what people are going to buy. Let's go ahead and just, if we have extra time, we'll do this. Yeah. But I love from the beginning that you guys are like, hey, this is what we're doing. So But that comes back to your guys' like the setting that you guys met, right? It was an adventurous setting where you guys became friends.
Yeah, if you want to make money in the whiskey business, don't do what we do, and that's become fairly obvious to us.
So don't do it.
Yeah, no, well, don't do it. That's got step one. But our approach really is, we do all these wild and different things, And that's what we're about. We're about doing these different releases and stuff like that. If you want to make a bunch of money in the whiskey business, you make one or two things and you make a ton of it. You focus your marketing and you get it out across everywhere, and that's fine, except you make the same damn thing every week or every day or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not what I got into this for. I've had a job. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Like we kind of do that. I mean, we do a lot of rye and a lot of bourbon. Lately also single malt. So it is a lot of what we do, but we do so many things so well that we kind of keep a bunch of our spirits around, our clear spirits as well.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We do certainly have some standard products, and we do end up spending a lot of time making the same stuff, but we do shake it up enough, with these weird products to keep it interesting, keep it fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think the things you guys have done over the years of, we'll talk about the Wren House beer, how that, because I'm curious, because I knew something happened. I just didn't know really what it was. So
Okay.
I do want to talk with you guys about that. But before that, like when I was saying the adventures, like you guys connected from hobbies, right? Weren't you guys all climbers or something more adventuresome than me? Flicking through Netflix, right?
Yeah, we're outdoorsmen. I met Jeff out on hiking trails, and
Jeff is the third owner at this point. Whoop, can you hear me?
Yeah. Founding partners were Jeff, myself, and Steve, who
Gotcha.
He exited before we hardly even got started. It quickly became apparent to Steve that this was going to be a lot of work, and he was right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, it's Steve. Steve knew what he was doing, man.
Yeah, he might be the smartest one of us all, in that respect. But then Chase came on, a year or so after that, maybe?
I came on, I started helping in January of 2017 and then actually bought in as a partner in March. So
Okay. So it wasn't all that much longer.
No, his exit was in November-ish of 2016.
Yeah.
I asked Jeff if he needed help, and he said, for the love of God, yes.
Yeah.
And then I just started helping with social media and whatnot. So.
Gotcha. So that's where you kind of came in as Chase, as that marketing that communications person.
Well, yeah, but we all have to wear all the hats. I mean, I focus on that, but we all have to know how to work the still. We all have to know how to do a mash. We all have to know, how to bottle things. It's something where we all have to be aware of those basic principles.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. So where did it come for you, Kelly? Where did it go from being of like, oh, this is cool to like, oh shit, are we going to do this?
Yeah, boy, it's funny looking back at that. The genesis was, I met these guys, out on the hiking trail, and we were just out having fun. And at some point we ended up making a couple of beers together. Cause I'm a home brewer from way back. And so that's kind of my background. I'll be honest, around that period of time, I was drinking less beer because the more beer I drank, the rounder I got. And, something had to give.
Yeah.
And Jeff was a big whiskey guy, and so we kind of were sampling whiskeys. And as an old home brewer, it wasn't too far of a stretch for me to go, hey, whiskey's not that different from beer. It's just one more step. I think I could do this.
Well, those are good signs too, right? Those are good signs that you're pushing yourselves and you're taking those chances, right? Because if you don't fall down, you're playing it safe. I
think that's true. And, we didn't want to do kind of a mainstream approach. You could go to distillery classes, and, we did go to one for a weekend, but you can learn a lot more than we chose to right at the beginning, or you can go plow your own field and see what grows. And that's kind of what we did. It's not the simplest way. And I look back to that first year, and, Chase is right. Jeff and I were just tearing our hair like, God, this is a lot of work. And it was crazy. But we've gotten better, and it's gotten easier, and that's the progression.
What do you think is one of the big things in that first year that you didn't expect to be as big of a? I mean, if you had to narrow it down to, let's say 15, your top 15.
Number one is so obvious to me in retrospect. I'm a home brewer, right? I know how to make beer, and when you make beer, you lauder your sweet wort through the grains. And only work with the sweet wort. You ferment and distill that. Yeah. And so that's what we did. We set up all our equipment like that. And then we went off to try to make a bourbon with a bunch of corn in it. And corn does not lauder worth a damn. You can't filter it. It just turns into this clog. We didn't know why. And we fought with these stuck mashes where it just be turned into a glob of goo with a fine layer of corn across our lauder screen and nothing on the bottom. Oh man, we fought with that forever. And then we tried to do a rye, and rye is a challenge when you do it the right way, and it's practically impossible trying to lauder it. And it took.
Does it just bind it? Is that what it does? Is it just kind of, it turns it into like a solid?
Into glue. Yeah, there's this thing, it's a molecule called a beta gluten, which is, like glutens in flour, except they're even more powerful. And so it just turns into this goo. And it's just, in the old days when people were making stills, and you don't want to solder the joints, so they'd actually take rye flour and paste up the joints with rye flour because it just turns into this glue.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's super tough to work with. And finally, after a year of this, we had this epiphany, like, why are we doing beer style? This is dumb. Nobody that makes whiskey does this. There's a reason. You do what they call on-grain brewing, where you leave the grains in there the whole time, even the fermentation, even in the first distillation. And suddenly life got a lot easier after that.
Yeah, I was going to say, dude, that's got to be work just cleaning it out every time. And I mean, getting it to go through. And
well,
it's a nightmare.
We'd have this little counterflow chiller, and we'd spend like an hour, at least hour and a half or 2 hours standing over this louder screen, like shaking the bag, and then we have to empty it out, and then we'd shake the bag and empty it out. We were doing this for 100 gallons, 200 gallons, and it was awful. Actually, we were still doing 300 or 400 gallons, but we had to run it through. At the time, we only had a 50 and 100 gallon still, so we had to run it through the still. Like, I think we were doing 200 gallons. We had to run it through twice.
Yeah, it was a nightmare. So I love to talk about how great it is to learn things the hard way. It wouldn't have taken very much time for a professional, somebody that we'd actually gone and consult with, to say, no, don't do that.
You guys did that for how long? Jeez.
A year. Yeah, we mash once a week and always have, and so we ran 46 or 47 mashes like that before we finally had to.
Now you have a whole new appreciation, though, right? Now you're like, here's how it could be. Right?
Yeah, that's true. I suppose. But once we figured that out, that enabled us to finally use our equipment to a better advantage, double our batch sizes. Instead of making 200-gallon batches, we're making 440-gallon batches.
Yeah.
Life just gets a lot easier once you've kind of learned some things. And there's, that's the most obvious one, but there's a lot of little steps along the way where you have suddenly the blinding glimpse of the obvious, like, why don't we just do that? Suddenly everything's easier.
Well, there was rye. We also found out that the first time that we went to go distill rye, when we had the rye grain for the stripping run, it was coming out and it tasted like a burned cigarette butt because the starches were literally burning. We use direct heat, so we have hot water heater elements that were sitting basically in the wort in the beer. So what we did was, I think Kelly creatively created an oil-based system where we would heat up oil, then the oil would run through copper tubing in the still and back out. So instead of being 1,000 degrees, it was 250 degrees. And so when we were running it, it wasn't burning. It took longer because obviously it's a lower heat, but we were able to mash some rye. So the first I think the first barrel of rye took like 3 or 4 mashes to actually produce the 15 gallons we needed.
Yeah.
It was
our yield was unbelievably horrible.
You're like, there's no way this is the like something's got. What do we get that manual out again? Right? Oh shit, we don't have a manual. God damn it! Why do we do this way? Yeah,
exactly.
But that's great though, man. Like, because you can sense that when you go in your guys' place too. Is it's like you guys, your heart and soul's in that place, and people that come in. I mean, and don't take this in a negative way, but they can't really tell the difference between you and a customer, right? Because everybody's just as excited to talk about it, and you know what I mean. Like, I mean, obviously they know you guys, that the regulars know you, but you just kind of you're part of the experience. You know what I mean? And that's
the really fun thing I think about coming in and doing a tour with us. It's invariably one of us, and we're the guys that have suffered and learned everything the hard way. And we know it inside out, backward and forward. And yet we still got this enthusiasm about, in spite of all the pain, when you suffer through that and then you finally figure it out, it's really exciting to kind of tell the story. So people come in, they get a tour from one of us. They really learn way more than you go to even one of the great big distilleries on the Bourbon Trail, something like that.
Yeah. You're
almost certainly not going to be led by the distiller. You're led by some schmo who's kind of been taught off a script, and you ask him a detailed question, and you get I don't know.
Here's a sheet. Here's our website. Exactly. Go here. And
doesn't say anything here about that. I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a different experience when you come to Adventurous Stills and get a tour. You're really going to learn some things, and we'll talk. If you ask good questions, you're going to get good stories.
Yeah.
So we have a good time with that.
Yeah, and those stories are the best too, right? Because when you see the still and that it was hand, I don't know if it's the right term, hand pounded, right? The copper, right? Hand formed. Is that a real word, Chase? You can use that one. Hand
yeah.
pounded.
And pounded.
And pounded.
Yeah.
Sounds a little off, but okay.
No, it's from the Flintstones.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it's just a great experience. And once kind of the doors opened up for you guys, you started seeing you everywhere. So the work expanded upon beyond making the spirits. Now it's like, okay, now we can do this. Now we need to get people here. Right?
Yeah, this is another learning that there's no bright and easy answer to. Is, it may, again, people probably would have told me this if I'd have been smart enough to ask around. But the spirit business, unfortunately, in fact, the alcohol business in general, it's 95% marketing and 5% product. Mm-hmm. And if I'd have known that when we started, we probably wouldn't have done it. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, that's a whole different set of issues. And, unfortunately, as the 5%, as the making the product got easier, we found that, now we got to go out and market and sell and knock on doors and not that doesn't have its fun times. Chase is way better at that than I am, just in terms of building relationships and that sort of thing. But that's really, that's unfortunately, that's really where you turn to pretty quickly once you kind of get your process sorted out, is trying to get it on shelves and get people to try it.
Yeah. Yeah. You always think, you always, in your mind, you're always like, if I make something good, people will come. And they're like, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
We're
It's not the
people.
dream.
Yeah. Yeah. So
yeah, I always say, if you could have 1 million barrels of the best bourbon in the world, but if no one knows who you are, it doesn't matter. And the more places you're in, the easier it gets, because people start to see you and start to recognize you and hear about you. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. What was your guys' approach to that? I mean, as far as did you take like line up a strategy, or was it kind of like the distilling where you're just like, let's try out some shit, see what works, right?
It took us a while. Up until for the first off, at the beginning, we were selling vodka and gin. Trust me, selling a $30 vodka that no one's heard of is
right. It's a tough gig.
Yeah, and then we got the whiskeys, and we focused a lot on local, and that holds its weight a little bit. But what we quickly found out is that we have to appeal to the emotional side of people, the ethos, and so you see a lot of Tin Cup. You see a lot of the people hiking in the mountains, and in the beer side, you see some very similar things from like Sierra Nevada, right? So it's not necessarily we products. It's you're outside and drinking our spirits, and if you drink our spirits, you can maybe you'll go outside and have one of these adventures yourselves. And it's stuff like that where that's kind of the emotional appeal that we've kind of started having to come to, as opposed to, hey guys, we used to just say, oh, we're local, and people are like, okay, great, and we're good, and but it's not trivial. It's actually, I think building a brand is the hardest thing I've done, and I have a master's in space systems engineering. So
yeah, you've done some difficult stuff.
A lot more respect for building a brand.
Yeah. And that's a good point, man. I don't think it took me a long time. It took me a long time.
About that.
You what? I
don't need to tell you about that.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, it's taken me a long time to realize the value of that. And from what you're describing, it's like a lifestyle, right? You're selling that lifestyle of your brand. And yeah, people don't, it's tough. It's tough. On the surface, marketing seems easy, but to be effective, it's really hard. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay.
One of the other problems, it's a benefit and a curse, right? Or a blessing and a curse. There are endless places to market, right?
Yeah.
Do you go with Facebook? Do you go with Instagram? Do you go with print? Do you go with TV commercials? Do you go with newspapers? And we know that a lot of the people that we're going after are really, I mean, the younger market is great, but 45 to 60, right? They're the ones that have the $45 to spend on a 2-year-old bourbon, or however old it is, and
yeah.
And so, but a lot of them still watch TV. They still read newsprint, but that stuff is expensive. I mean, I was trying to look at NPR for commercial space, just because I listen to NPR. I was like, how much were they? Yeah. For like prime time, it was like $200 for them to, for like a 10-second spot for a week or something. That's crazy. I mean, right? And everyone wants your money. Yelp wants your money, and Google AdWords wants money, and it's almost impossible. I mean, you have to have such a large marketing budget to really do it justice.
Sure.
And so it's always very hard trying to figure out, well, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck?
Yeah.
But, definitely, being interviewed by great people like you, you obviously came a long time ago, and I think I'd seen you at Arizona Distilling, and I'd never heard of you before. And I was like, oh, hey, I'm this crazy guy, at this other distillery, if you want to interview, and now we have a relationship. And so it's been pretty cool. And
yeah,
but like Kelly said, building relationships is very important. So.
And I think that's what, that's what really drew me in was, we connected, and you said you're a fan of the podcast, which I was flattered immediately. So, you could have told me whatever you wanted at that point, right?
Still listen, man. I still listen.
But no, so then I remember coming in, and just, it was a great experience. You guys were making, great products, but like you said, that relationship aspect, right? Because the first time I'd met the people from Iconic Cocktails, you guys did an event there. So the people that you've kind of brought through and the people you've connected with in this scene is awesome, man. And it shows in your guys' reputation and your products.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Again, the kind of, blow a little smoke up, chase the skirts. I think that's something that he's done a really good job with, is getting out and building these relationships, and that's something he's done really well at. It's been a huge benefit for the company, and like he said, you make great stuff, but if nobody knows about you, you haven't found a way to get on the shelves and get in the front of people's minds, it doesn't make any difference. Exactly.
Well, speaking of the, sorry, Chase, were you saying something?
I was gonna say, people are still surprised to this day that they walk in and they look around and they're like, "Wait, so where can I find you outside of here?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we've been in Total Wines for over 2 years." And they're like, "Really?" There's 4 or 5 million people in this city, and we've probably seen or touched 10 or 15,000, right? So, we think that we've really injected ourselves in the market. We haven't, and it's there's no one avenue, there's no easy way to do it.
You just keep pushing, man. Keep pushing.
There is
right?
one. It's money.
Yeah.
We always say, if we spend $1,000 in marketing and we get $2,000 back, we have an endless budget.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep.
That's what Kelly likes to say.
Yeah, some of my favorite phrases. My marketing budget is $1 million if you can figure out how to make it positive return.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'll just give you a line of credit. Doesn't matter. Like, just you can double that. Yep. But you're right. There's no science in that, right? You talk to one expert, they're like, "Oh, do this. Oh, do this. Oh, you got to post at 4:02 a.m. with one eye closed and your foot." Like, what is happening?
Every day, every other day, 5 days a week. One day, except for on odd number. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's what I love. Once again, about what you guys are doing is you're focusing on the product of the quality of the product, right? You're also doing these other things to get the name out there, but it's not like you're like, "Hey, it's good enough. We're good where we're at. Let's just sell this shit," right? No, it's like, "Hey, we need to bring awareness, but we're still doing amazing stuff," right? And that begins with the process, right? Because I know I've talked to you guys several times about grain to glass, right? That's what is grain to glass?
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know what that means. Maybe it's not obvious, but all spirits start from grains, or they certainly should. And we're starting with the grain. We mill up the grain and basically extract the starch in the mashing process and convert that starch into sugar, which is the fuel or the energy source, the food for the yeast to convert the sugar into alcohol. And then we distill that alcohol and age it into whiskey. So that's the basic process. And we do all of those things in-house at Adventurous Stills, all in our shop there. Whereas, I don't know, I'm kind of making up a number here, but something like half or maybe even 2/3 of craft distilleries out and about are purchasing their pre-made spirit from one of a few major producers. MGP is kind of the famous one. And if you're into the whiskey scene, you've heard of these guys, the stories. And lots of famous brands. High West is sourced material. Geez, Chase, you probably know these better than I do, but there's just lots of people that are sourcing.
Yeah. High West does like 2 of their own products. Whistle Pig They used to do their farm stock, but I think even their farm stock, they said they can't keep up with. So, they're big, the 10-year, the 12-year, the 15-year, the 18-year, double whatever, their Boss Hog, people pay hundreds of dollars for it. It's not made by them. At the end of the day, a lot of people, I've talked to people, they don't care, and that's fine. But we like to know where our spirits come from, and definitely more aware of it. I'm much less apt to buy MGP products. In fact, I was looking at my shelf. I probably have 50, 60 whiskeys. I think that probably 80% of them, 80 to 85% are, maybe even 90, are from different distilleries, and most of them actually make their own product. I have maybe 4 or 5 bottles that are made by MGP. So as far as I know.
You don't know.
That's the hard part. So hard to tell. If people are transparent about it, I think we honestly have no issues. But it's just it's not obvious. And even sometimes we can, sometimes it says, bottled by, or made here and bottled here, and I don't know.
Yeah.
And then there's tons of places that just don't even say. They literally oh, it's made in Tennessee, and you're like, well, is it Dickel or is it something else? And made in Tennessee, and that's all that they'll say. I mean, Barrel does that a lot, but they're known for their blenders. Barrel is blenders.
Yeah.
But that's, again, if we had set out to make a bunch of money in the whiskey business, we would have made no bones about it. We would have bought all of our spirit. We would have bought old aged spirit straight off and bottled it up in our fancy labeled bottles and been done with it.
Yeah.
But that's not what we're about. We're not trying to just make some money in the whiskey business. We're trying to do something fun and interesting, something that people can get excited about. And, again, if you're trying to be adventurous, if you want to do something different, well, you're not going to find that at MGP. You find that by doing grain to glass, doing the whole process, choosing your grains, whether they're local or different or whatever's unique about your mash bill, and starting from scratch. And stuff we're all about.
And the hard part is that, the people who do source it, one thing I run up against a lot is the price tag. And, our bourbon's $45, it's 90 proof, it's really good, but you're going to get people that say, well, I can get something that's twice the age at half the cost. And I'm like, okay, we don't have that advantage. And, with stuff like MGP being so readily available, it just makes it a lot harder for us to sell, which, it would be nice one day to just have everyone off the shelf except for people who make their stuff. And I'll tell you that we'd sell a lot more whiskey. There'd be a lot less. But as we found out, that's not the way it works. So we kind of have to play in the world that we decided to be in. So we're learning.
And what does that look like for you guys? I mean, what is that when you come to that realization of okay, here's the angle we need to go towards obviously you don't have to give me the business plan, right? But mindset wise, what is it like? Okay, this is what our approach needs to be.
Yeah, I think it's when we kind of came to that realization, and it wasn't an epiphany, it was a kind of gradual seeping in. Here's what's going on.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a kind of a soul check. Are we really into what we set out to do, or are we going to go off and try to make money and source our whiskey? It didn't take very long for us to kind of all look around and go, no, this is what we're doing. We're sticking with the plan, and it's not really about making money. It's about doing what we want to do. So it wasn't a particularly hard decision.
Sure.
On the other hand, every month when the rent comes due, or whatever, we got a new barrel order coming in, you got to write a big check.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far, we stuck to our guns, and this is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's cool to get a group of people that are down like that too, right? Everybody's on the same page because each person brings a different perspective. They bring different skills. Some person's not good at this person's good at that, but you all have to align with that vision, right? And I think that's one of the hardest things sometimes.
Yeah. I'm not going to say we haven't had the discussion quite a number of times, but and at the end of the day, we all look around and go, yeah, this is, it's not really about making money. It's about doing what we want to do.
Yeah.
So, sure, we all have a different perspective, but on the other hand, we're all kind of from the engineering community. We all have a pretty rational approach to things. And, I think in the end, the right decision is not that hard to come to.
Yeah. Yeah. When you just said that, I just thought of a little sideshow for you guys. We're going to do like a Engineers Gone Wild kind of adventure thing. Not the late 90s Gone Wild version, but just, Adventurous Stills Gone Wild.
Am I going to get to keep my shirt on for this, Eric?
I hope so. Yes, please do. I can't make any guarantees about mine, but we'll work on that.
Try to keep it PG, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So I got to ask you guys about, let's kind of catch up a little bit as far as so you guys opened the doors, you said 2017?
Yep, January 2017.
What's the last couple years been like? What's that adventure been like?
There's a lot of kind of the process development and figuring that out, but in parallel with this kind of evolutionary approach, I think, to sales and marketing. When we first started doing it, Jeff and Chase have day jobs. Chase mentioned he's an aerospace engineer. He's working from 8 to 5, and so even though this isn't my strong suit, I'd get in the car after doing whatever had to be done in the morning. I'd be driving around talking to retailers and bartenders and stuff like that. And I started off, and we had some successes. We have the story works and the product's good and blah blah blah. So we had some successes, but mostly I suck at this. And but there was a slow learning process. I bought some books on how to sell, and I think I've evolved a little bit. But then Chase is kind of also, I think we've just grown into figuring out how to do this. So in parallel with improving our production process, we've improved our marketing process, and so it's been a kind of a long, slow growth, and it's pretty crazy. In the technology world, particularly in startups, everybody talks about the J curve or the hockey stick, when suddenly your product catches fire and your revenues go through the roof. And that was us last winter. We were absolutely driving ourselves crazy, emptying casks and filling bottles, and we were kind of freaking out like we're going to run out of product.
Yeah.
And it was wonderful. We were really excited about it. And
literally up until March,
up until March. Then COVID hit and crash, and so that's really unfortunate for us. We really felt like we had turned the corner and things were just a different world, and now we're kind of thrown back into the pit and trying to climb our way back out.
Yeah.
But during that period of time, we made a bunch of hand sanitizer, and so we felt like we were helping the community, and we worked with a couple of local breweries to build some custom product that we gave away to first responders and stuff like that.
Yeah. Thanks, Sean and Helava.
Yep, Sean and Helava. Yep.
Oh, nice.
So I felt like we were, helping the community a little bit. Plus, we were able to make a little bit of money on that, and so that kind of tied us over. And now we're kind of waiting for the light at the end of the tunnel. I hope it comes quickly, and hopefully we'll pick up where we left off.
Yeah, keep that hockey stick rolling, right?
I sure hope so.
Yes.
And in the meantime, so Eric, you were asking about what's happened since and whatnot since when we first started. One thing that wasn't touched, that was the marketing side and sales side. But as far as making the product, we've been putting away a bunch of bourbon, trying to, you can't go backwards in time. Our bourbon is getting older. We have our rye. Our rye came out, I think, almost 2 years ago now, which sounds
okay.
That's about right.
Maybe a year and a half ago, we had the first couple casks. It was, the first release was an Explorers Club release, and it's since that's since gotten older. That's going to be a year and 7 months, a year and 8 months soon, but that's in 15-gallon casks, so it's always tasted a lot older than what people think, a little bit more mature, which is good. But our rye is phenomenal. And then we also, in the last 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, we decided to make a single malt whiskey.
Nice.
So, Scotch style, basically, we took, it's 92% Gleneagles malt, which is an Irish malted barley. And then I think it's 8%. Is it caramel malt or two-row, Kelly?
Crystal malt.
Crystal, excuse me.
Okay.
So it's a two grain, two malt mash bill, and we actually were trying to do something different to stay with the adventurous theme. We were actually using our used rye casks. So we really don't know of any scotches that are aged in used rye casks. So that was trying to be once again different, and I think we probably have about 8 or 10 barrels squirreled away. And now, honestly, openly, we're having a hard time. We knew this could be an issue, and it wasn't until March. We decided to go with our used rye casks. Well, we're not uncasking rye as fast as we were making a single malt. So now we're stuck trying to figure out what we actually are talking about, buying someone else's rye casks to fill just to tide us over, because we need to be aging it. And I think we're less
need the room.
We need the whiskey, but I think we're less concerned about what type of rye was in it. I think that's going to be less important.
Okay.
And if we're going to have a release of a product, we don't, in a year, if the market bounces back and we're going gangbusters, we don't want to be stuck with, well, we only have 8 casks. We have to improvise. But that's, outside of that, we've got these Explorers Club releases, the quinoa. I think you have a question about one of our previous releases, which I I was kind of hoping if you were here, I was going to sample you with some of them, but I forgot. I missed the Zoom thing, so that's fine.
Missed out, buddy.
Yeah, it's
Nah,
okay.
I know. That was on me. That's on me. I know.
But I still have more of the good boy Wally. So
Yeah. Explain that. What happened there?
Good, Chase.
Yeah, so I went to Ren House to go pick up one of the releases. I'm a stout guy, and they had something, I think it was in like March of last year. And I was just sitting at the bar, and I'm like, hey, whenever I walk into a brewery or a distillery or a bar, I'm like, hey, I'm Chase with Adventurous Stills, just want to say hi. And, it's fun to talk to the brewers or the owners. And this was on a Sunday. I didn't expect anyone to be there. I was literally just being friendly.
Yeah.
And some guy next to me was like, oh, Adventurous Stills, where's that? And I said, we're in Tempe. And I was like, yeah, we make all of our spirits from scratch. And he looked over at me and said, you want 2 pallets of beer? And I said, what? like we had this beer that Drew may kill me for this, but whatever. It came out of Solution. And so normally it's a hazy IPA is what Good Boy, in fact, they just released it this week. They had their second release of it. It's a phenomenal beer. It's a triple IPA.
Those Wallies are my favorites. Like, just not to interrupt, but those are my favorites.
Wally, they're pretty good. The can art is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they had a bunch of cans of it. So we brought it over and we emptied them out and put it and distilled it. And it was interesting to begin with. I mean, people like to ask us, well, how old are these things? And some of our Explorers releases don't need time. I mean, this was one where it took 5 months in a 30-gallon cask, and it was phenomenal. I mean, people are freaking out. They still say that they should be a regular release for us.
Wow.
I mean, people, it is one of, if not the most unique whiskey I've ever had, because it's, there are other whiskeys out there like Charbet out of New York. They do a lot of distilled beers. But those can be kind of hot. He'll release them at like 144 proof.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it kind of smells and tastes like pot. Because
Okay.
I think for years, what happens is that the pine from the hops, where they turn into this pot smell. And so at 5 months, it was just kind of perfect, right? It had a little color. It had some caramel in the background. So it starts off kind of tasting like a gin and finishes like a bourbon. And your palate, if you drink enough whiskey or beer, mainly whiskey, your taste buds get blown out. And so you stop being able to taste very much. You can be at the very end of your night, you have like a little taste of the Good Boy Wally, and it's like your taste buds are fresh. I mean, it's just so potent. It ended up being so good.
What's the side? Well, like, why did that happen, right? Like, why did he think to say, hey, because I know he's not just saying, hey, do you want a pallet of beer just so you could drink it, right? So, like, because that's kind of an unspoken, like, or I won't say unspoken, but like, I don't understand how that even happens as far as the process of it. Why did he give you the beer? What was the mindset?
Well, I think it was that, once again, the story is that they poured a couple of the cans, right?
Yeah.
And it poured out, it was apparently crystal clear. And then it had like, 2 inches of this hazy. It's literally I'm not an IPA guy. I guess, I don't know what it is.
I'm not as much beer as I drink. I don't know shit about it as far as like the process. Like, I'm pretty limited
to it. But whatever makes them hazy, it fell out of Solution.
Yeah.
And so they didn't feel like, that it represented the product.
Sure.
It was supposed to be a hazy IPA. And that was it. I mean,
I guess what I mean is, was when he said that to you, was his intent knowing that you were going to distill it and make a whiskey out of it, obviously, right?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, yes. No,
yeah.
No, it wasn't, go get plastered for.
Yeah.
No.
But my question is why? Like, why? What was it? Because I don't understand how that works. Turning beer into whiskey, I guess, is my main question.
Well, so what Kelly kind of broached but didn't speak to directly is that all whiskey, grain-based alcohol, starts as and you concentrate the alcohol in the still. So they just had taken it was off grain essentially, and it had been filtered. So it actually was really easy to distill and dripping around in the spirit run. And it's no different than if we would have taken one of our beers and distilled, just didn't have any grain. So it was perfectly fine. In fact, the good thing about it was that because it was a triple IPA, it had like 10 or 11% alcohol by volume, which is about what we end up with anyway. If we were to take like a lager or a Hell's or something that has like 4 or 5% alcohol by volume, your yield through the still is awful, because it's directly related to the amount of alcohol that's in the beer. So like if someone gave us like a 14% stout, you would get a shit ton of finished product, because ounce for ounce, because it literally has a high starting alcohol concentration.
Gotcha.
All that we do is we're concentrating the alcohol in the still. So it's no different than, and what's funny is when people come in and they're like, oh, I've been on the bourbon trail, I've done whatever. And I say, do you know that all grain-based alcohol starts as a beer and we concentrate the alcohol in the still? And people go,
Right.
okay. I'm like, you should take the tour, because we don't have any we don't have any history to hide behind. So we just talk about the science. But anyway, yeah, that's where it came from. So it was no different than us making, it just happened to be an IPA, which we don't have the ability to work with hops. So that was pretty, well, we'd have to go back to lautering, and we have to do that.
Shut your mouth.
In fact, they aren't the first ones we've gotten beer from. We have a peanut butter porter from Uncle Bear's that we have aging right now.
Ah, wow, that sounds very interesting.
I'm excited about that one.
Very different. So
well, I'm going to make a trip to Tempe so I can taste this Wally whiskey.
There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I may have asked Drew at Rent House. I said, if you ever have the capacity to make an extra 1,200 gallons of a double or triple IPA, we'll pay you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we may have more coming eventually, but there's a bunch of people who have said, hey, you should do more distilled beers, because it was just so different and interesting.
Yeah. I think I've seen on the shelves at like Total Wine. Is it Rogue? Rogue does a whiskey.
Rogue does whiskey. I think it's their Dead Guy. It's like their
Dead Guy. Yep. So I would assume the same kind of thing. I've never had it either. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the interesting thing about the hops is that you don't typically there are hopped whiskeys, but just taking a triple IPA and distilling it was just completely. It was just different.
Yeah.
Very, very good. So.
That's awesome, man. And one of the best in the state, with one of the best in the state, making one of the best in the state.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Actually, you know what? We gave them the barrel back. So they're using the barrel from Good Boy Wally to make a beer. And I don't remember exactly what they're doing. So it's got some life to it.
Heck yeah. That's awesome, man. That's what this is. And so I guess to kind of sum it all up, right? You guys look at the thing like, all right, people they're doing, this is a process they're doing. I know we're, I won't say at a disadvantage, but in certain areas disadvantage because of the process, right? Of how you guys do it, right? Or you know what I'm saying? But the people who are fans of you guys it's that concept of 1,000 rabid fans, right? If you can get like 1,000 people that are like, hell yeah, whatever Adventurous Stills does, you don't need 10 million followers, you need 1,000 rabid fans, right? And connecting with Rent House, connecting with all the people you guys have connected with, that's creating that foundation that will allow you guys to continue doing the adventurous thing.
So yes, I would argue that if a brewery needs 1,000 rabid fans, we need like 15,000, because well, the reason most people go through whiskey slower, I mean, you open up a beer and you're done.
Yeah,
right.
Sure.
I have 40, 50, 60 whiskeys open. I'm going to go through them in a year or two. And so it's not something where, once again, I mean, it's great. We do have our rabid fans. We have someone, Melissa and Topher, they're in some of the whiskey communities. They're trying to get every batch of Peralta bourbon they can. That's awesome, because they're trying to taste one. And I've never heard anyone doing that with our stuff, which I'm very flattered. And we have that. We have, there's plenty of people on, the whiskey community or the bourbon society where, hey, I'm looking for a local distillery. And the first thing anyone says is Adventurous Stills. I mean, they say, there's other distilleries that people talk about, but, you'll see someone post a picture at Total Wines of our bourbon or our rye or our Fossil Creek. And someone says, what do you think about this? And almost everyone just says, buy it. And, they get it and they're like, oh, this is so good. Thanks. And so that's pretty cool. I mean, we're just three guys who, our background isn't distilling. So we're just doing our best to put Tempe and Arizona on the map for spirits. So it's really cool. And we do have those rabid fans, but we can always use
Yes. Now, I wasn't putting a ceiling on you, Chase. Not just 1,000. Let's start with that. We'll get up there. You guys might already be beyond 1,000. So let's not put numbers on things.
Well, and it is fun because on Instagram or whatever, we have people sending samples to people in Wyoming or Minnesota or California. There's a couple of people who have sent some guys to the Whiskey Vault people. Patrick Cohn, he's been awesome. He's sent a bunch of Del Bach stuff as well. There's someone who got our bourbon when they were here, and they're Canadian, and so they posted like steel cut oats soaked in our bourbon. like for breakfast. I mean, it's like they add a little splash of bourbon to it, and I think they like got the milk, but the bourbon was sweet enough in the steel cut oats. I think they drained it, and they were like, it was sweet enough that we just ate the steel cut oats. And I was like, and like it's fun to see. I mean, Canada. I don't know. I never thought that someone from Canada was. I just never thought about it, right? Because we're only sold in Arizona right now. So
yeah,
it's been pretty cool to just see your brand kind of growing.
Yeah. People, you. I don't know. It's like your children, right? You let them go and hope they flourish, right? And your bottles are leaving the States, and
And fair. I mean, not everyone has to like our stuff, and we understand that. It's not the oldest stuff, and people like our bourbon has what we were different with that was that it has a like 5% chocolate malts or 2% chocolate malts. It's very small, but it's very apparent, right? There's a lot of chocolate on it. And not everyone has to like that. So don't think that we're all high and mighty. I mean, we're learning, like we said, and it's nice to have people point us out, but we have the naysayers too, and that's absolutely fine, right? If everyone likes you, you have no way to learn. And so if someone has a bad experience, someone says, "Oh, I don't like your vodka, I don't like your gin," we're like, come into the distillery if you have the ability to, and we will happily switch it out, and we'll sample you through all of our spirits, and we want people to be happy at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So we're not closed-minded about that.
Love it. I love it. You guys are doing great stuff. I know the current situation aside, we can't really plan anything at this point, right? But vision wise, where do you guys want Adventurous Stills to go?
Yeah, boy, I'll take a swing at that. We've kind of been looking for that, that inflection point in the sales curve, and to see that happening, last winter was really exciting. So my hope is that continues once we kind of climb out of this hole. We have been making whiskey every week, through thick and thin, through this all this crisis, and this is a long-term business, right? This is the product we make today. Best case, we'll sell it, winter of 2022. So it doesn't make any difference what's happening right now. We got to keep plowing away and laying up whiskey and increasing our stores to enable us to continue to grow down the road. And the hope is that we continue to make great stuff. We're honestly looking forward. We're backing out of the white spirits. We're not gonna do our standard vodka and our standard gin anymore. We may still occasionally have them here in the tasting room, but in terms of finding them on the shelf, we need to focus on brown spirits. That's really what we're about. And so focusing our effort and continuing to try to improve the quality of the product. And like Chase mentioned, our single malt coming out in another 8 months or a year, something like that. We're hoping that comes out to be great, and just keep growing the business. That's what it's about, trying to make great product and expand our reach.
Absolutely, man. And I don't know, like through all this thing, and people are listening to this, or if they listen to Tap That Easy, I've probably said this every episode, like in the last 6 months. But my hope is that, I'll first say the inspiration that I'm seeing from businesses like yours and the breweries and the restaurants, these people that are struggling, they're like, hey, like me, like I found what I was meant to do. Like I found this is what I'm meant to do. So yeah, shit might get rough, but I'm not going down without a fight. Right. And you see that with what you guys are doing. And you see like Ryan from Dark Sky driving beer from Flagstaff to Tucson just to get his beer out, It's awesome. It's an awesome to see that. It's real shitty that we have to be in this position, but I don't know, when people's backs are against the wall, you learn a lot. Right. So hopefully
that's the commitment it takes as a small entrepreneur trying to do something different like this. You can be as cool as you want, but it's fundamentally about a lot of damn work. And we learned that really, really clearly. And you're not going to succeed any other way. Yeah.
Would you do it I would say, would you do it any other way? But would you go back to the old job and say, all right, you know what? I had my chance, but this is it.
Yeah, you won't find me driving a desk anytime soon.
Right. Kelly's a smart one. He retired young or early-ish, so I'm too young for that. Yeah, I actually have to go back to full time. I was taking some time, like I was working 90% time for the last year to help do sales on Fridays and whatnot, and it worked. We were doing quite a bit of sales, and it's just about time. I need to go back to work full time. So unfortunately, I'd love to not be back at a desk, but have to be. So I'll continue to continue to work this when I, on the evenings and weekends and stuff. So.
And knowing that it's not permanent, that's a good motivator too. It's like, all right, this get me through this. Give me, So, no, like I said, you guys are doing great stuff. I appreciate you guys taking the time to come on the show, man.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for
chatting with you again.
I honestly have been so busy, I haven't paid attention to the Taste of Arizona, but I'll have to start adding that to my feed.
Come on,
I know.
Chase. No worries, man. Well, I'll tell you one episode you'll probably watch. So,
there we go.
I feel like I've seen it.
Yeah, like I was there, man. But no, really appreciate what you guys are doing, like, kind of leading that charge of craft in Arizona, man. I don't know. It's such a cool industry. It's a great family that's, this whole craft community. So I know you guys have experienced that with food, beer, whatever it is, right? So
yep. Things that make Arizona a cool place to be. That's, love to support that sort of thing. Not just us, but other people we see out doing the same sort of thing. It's, this is what makes Arizona a fun place. People are trying to do something cool.
Lots of places for adventure too, right?
That's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome.
A couple weeks ago.
You what?
I said I was getting dirty in a canyon a couple weeks ago.
Really? Nice,
yeah.
Man. You like that? You like to get out and just you got to disconnect. And I'm
need to, man.
Yeah.
Need to.
Yeah, I agree. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much. And you guys are in Tempe. What? How do people find you online and on the world?
Yeah, so we're in Industrial Park, just south of the Tempe Marketplace, kind of at the corner of 5th and River.
Okay.
And you can find us online at adventstills.com or call the shop anytime, 480-292-8770.
You can find our website and then Facebook and Instagram as well. We do have a newsletter, send out emails. It was monthly. Now with less going on, it's when we have releases, and we have the quinoa being released to the public next Thursday. The Explorers Club have their chance this weekend to pick up an extra bottle, and then whatever's left goes to the public. So I'll be sending out a newsletter about that probably today.
Nice. Well, when people listen to this, it'll probably be out by then. So tell them to make mad dash to the store to get
or join the mailing list, because we have some releases that are coming up that are going to be a little bit out of phase. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Do that through the website?
Yep, you can. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see how to join the newsletter.
Beautiful. Well, guys, thanks once again. Keep doing awesome stuff, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Well, everyone, we hoped you liked that episode of the podcast with Adventurous Stills. Make sure to follow them on social media, as well as A Taste of AZ. See you next time.